Guys, let's talk about communicating effectively with our listing clients. Now, in the listing presentation section of this, I told you that one of the three things that a seller is going to bring up as an objection or a concern that they have when hiring an agent is communication, right? So remember, we always welcome objections or concerns. So for me, that would sound something like, hey, John, listen, I understand how important communicating is, and I want to reassure you that I'm going to be communicating with you purposefully, intentionally, and proactively every single week. And here's how that's going to look. Now, guys, before I jump into that, I believe in the saying, be funny, make money, right? If I can make somebody laugh or smile, I'm almost always going to do business with them. So I would do something like this. And I had this in my business when I was a producing agent. I would say, hey, John, listen, I don't want you to get too excited here because I've never had to pay this money, but I have it in place just in case I ever drop the ball. Now, John, I have something we call the communication guarantee. And here's what that looks like. I'm going to call you at a minimum twice a week. That's going to be on top of discussing showings and scheduling and inspections and everything else. But I'm going to communicate with you at a minimum twice a week. Every Monday, I'm going to give you a phone call and I'm going to ask you, or I'm going to tell you, John, everything that happened last week. I'm going to give you all the feedback from the showings. We're going to discuss anything that's come up over the past week. And I'm going to talk to you about everything that's going to happen this week, from marketing to pricing conversations to social media posts or open houses. And that's what Monday's conversation is going to look like. And John, on Thursday, I'm simply going to call you and ask you one question. How can I serve you? John, that could be real estate related or anything else. I'm just going to call and see if there is any opportunity for me to go to the extra mile for you and see how I could be serving you. Now, John, here's where the commitment comes into play. If I don't complete those two follow ups, those two conversations on Monday and Thursday, I'm going to Venmo you $100. Now, John, like I said, don't get too excited because I've never had to pay it, but it's in place if I ever drop the ball. Does that sound good to you, John? Of course, they're going to say yes there. Guys, why that's so important is this is the largest financial transaction of somebody's life. It takes purposeful and intentional communication to serve them at a high level. The average agent isn't doing that, right? You'll hear a lot of people put a sign in the yard, put it on MLS, and pray for an offer. We're not going to do that. We're the above average agents. So in this module, I put a little cadence of communication in here for you. How you can be doing these things systematically, right? Every 14 days, I would provide a market update, right? New listings. What is their new competition? What is sold in the market in the last 14 days? How do we compare? What new strategy should we employ? And every 30 days that it's not under contract, I would be having a pricing strategy conversation. And that's going to, of course, depend on price point and location, right? If you're listing a $4 million beautiful oceanfront property in Charleston, South Carolina, 30 days probably isn't the right amount of time to be adjusting pricing, right? So, this is a general guide, not a strict rule of thumb, but on the average house in our markets, you should probably be having a pricing strategy conversation every 30 days, right? I'll tell you guys a quick story about the how can I serve you phone call. I implemented this in my business when I was a real estate agent. So on Monday, I called a gentleman. His name was Aaron. I said, Aaron, here's everything that happened last week. Here's everything that's happened this week. Let me know if you need anything in between. He said nothing. I said, great. Talk to you on Friday. Or excuse me, talk to you on Thursday. I called Aaron back on Thursday, and we were in the inspection phase. We had just completed inspections, and now we were negotiating repairs. And there was a roof repair. I think it was like the gutters were clogged or something. So Aaron had jumped up on the roof and started cleaning out his gutters, and he had fallen off his roof, y'all. He broke 3 out of his 4 limbs. It was both his arms and his left leg. And I called him on Thursday, and you could just hear in his voice how defeated he was. His wife had him on speakerphone, and I said, "Hey guys, it's Thursday. How can I be serving you?" And they told me what had happened, and they're like, "Brandon, we could use dinner." And I just heard how defeated they were. Right, guys, I'm telling you, You can ask my assistant at the time. Like, I shut my computer, I ran home, I cooked this dude a meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, like the whole 9 yards. My wife is looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm working. Don't worry about it." Right? I go out to Greer, South Carolina, which was about a 40-minute drive from my house. I warmed everything up. I plated it up for them. I gave their little girl dessert. Like, I did the whole thing just to make sure that they felt comfortable. Uh, the home closed, guys, and how many referrals do you think they've sent me? The answer is yes, right? While I was doing my job, it was a simple act of kindness that really stood out to them and going the extra mile. And they really did become friends for life. So that's just a quick example of how can I serve you phone call can really go a long way. Now, remember, guys, real estate agents make their money at the closing table. Where we build wealth is by earning referrals. And I would tell you that going the extra mile in situations like that is going to earn you a lot of referrals, right? A big one here, guys. Let's talk about providing feedback. I know Showing Time has an opportunity or a system to deliver the feedback directly to the sellers, right? I would tell you to stay away from that. I would set the expectation with your seller clients that you're going to present them the feedback every single Monday. You're going to gather all the feedback. You're going to talk to all the buyer's agents. You're going to do all the research. So on Monday, you can communicate clearly what the feedback is across all of them, right? Also, set the expectation that you're not always going to receive that feedback. You're going to do every effort possible to obtain it, but you're not always going to receive it. And when you don't get feedback, that is the feedback, right? Remember, you can get away with almost anything as long as you set the proper expectations. Now, guys, here's why I never just directly forward the feedback to the seller clients. Sometimes that feedback is negative, and sometimes sellers can get really emotional when somebody speaks negatively about their house, especially if there's smell or decorations or paint, right? Layout, the neighborhood. People can get really defensive about these things, and blindly just sending negative feedback takes an opportunity away for you to be able to provide that feedback in a way that they can receive it better, right? So, negative feedback is always a phone call. Please, please, please do not just forward the Showing Time email to your clients. It's always a phone call, right? And that way you can talk them through it. Hey, guys, listen, got off the phone with the buyer's agents. Here's what they loved about the house. Here's the things that they didn't love about the house. Here's some things that we can pivot towards, right? It's always the better way to do it. Be proactive. If a seller calls you first, I always say that you're behind, so be proactive in your communication. Know your seller's personalities. That how can I serve you phone call might be a how can I serve you text message, but you should be calling them once a week. So guys, that's how I would suggest that you communicate with your clients proactively every single week. At a minimum, please call them once a week. If you want to go the extra mile, it's a twice a week thing. So I hope that's helpful for you guys.